Welcome back to DFC Books. Today we are undertaking a deep dive into a truly foundational text of American literature, Maya Angelou's first autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. We've got, well, quite a stack of sources here, ready to really unpack the complex world of Marguerite Johnson, tracing her journey from the segregated South right up to the brink of adulthood.
It really is. And it's a work whose gravity, I think, is established before you even hit page one. That title itself, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, it's a direct echo, isn't it, from Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem Sympathy.
Yeah, 1899.
Right. And that connection, it just immediately sets this tone. You know it's going to be about struggle, profound struggle, but also about this deep yearning for freedom, for expression. It's more than just a memoir. It feels like a dialogue with history.
That poetic framing is so important. And, if you look at how the Library of Congress actually cataloged this book, the categories themselves are quite revealing. They give you a map, almost. Well, you've got childhood, youth, homes, haunts in Arkansas, obviously, but then American author, African-American woman author, entertainer, and critically, African-American families and Arkansas social life customs. It flags it right away. This is personal, yes, but it's also a lens on a whole community, a whole time and place.
That's a great point. It really speaks to that idea of the specific holding the universal. And Oprah Winfrey, in her foreword, she talks about this so powerfully.
Oh, yeah.
She read it when she was 15, a poor black girl, she says, from Mississippi. And it was just a revelation. She felt this instant bond with Angelou over these, incredibly specific shared experiences.
Things like being raised by a grandmother in the South.
Exactly. Raised by her grandmother, raped around age 9, and then that silence afterwards, muting the telling of the trauma. Oprah really connected with that part.
Wow. That level of specific connection, even down to reciting Easter pieces in church, apparently. It makes it so visceral. And Oprah really emphasizes that silence Angelou experience, seeing it not as, a failure, but as this necessary shield.
Precisely. A protective mechanism. And this really threads into what becomes the book's core message, maybe Angelou's lifelong mantra. We are more alike than we are unalike. That's the bedrock for empathy, right? This deep dive really shows how Angelou explores prejudice not just as some abstract social problem, but as this deeply painful personal thing that limits everyone, and how finding your own voice, sharing your truth, that's how you connect to bigger human truths: longing, hope, security.
Okay, so if the big theme is universality, the starting point is anything but. It's very specific, very local. Let's dive into Stamps, Arkansas, the store. Mama.
Stamps, yeah. And it's all defined by the store, capital S, always. Annie Henderson Mama, she owned it for, 25 years?
25 years, yeah. Started out selling lunches.
That's right, lunches to the sawmen from the lumberyard, the seedmen from the cotton gin, the economic engine of the place.
But it grew into something much bigger than just a place to buy lunch. Sounds like the absolute heart of the black community there.
Oh, completely. It became the lay center of activities. Think marketplace, meeting spot, maybe even a makeshift stage. Barbers worked off the porch on Saturdays.
Birds too, right?
Yeah, traveling musicians would stop by, sit on the benches, play these cigar box guitars, sing these bluesy, sad songs about places like the Brazos. It was the center of gravity, socially, economically. And Angelou captures the feel of it that morning air with a soft, make-believe feeling, she calls it. And the smells. Onions, oranges, kerosene, quite a mix.
A very distinct atmosphere. And presiding over all of this is Mama Annie Henderson.
Yeah.
The description of her, it just radiates authority. Taller than most, strong hands.
Palpable strength, yeah.
Yeah.
But it also notes her voice was soft by choice. That control, that's key to understanding her.
And her routine, her piety, it sounds incredibly disciplined.
Ironclad. Up at 4 a.m., no alarm needed, kneeling right away to pray. And those prayers, like thanking God the bed wasn't her cooling board or the blanket her winding sheet, it speaks to this constant awareness of life's precariousness, survival.
That practical faith seemed to translate directly into how she handled race relations, too, teaching the kids the safe paths.
Exactly. Caution was paramount. Avoid white folks if you can. Never, ever speak insolently. That was the rule.
But you said it wasn't submission, it was strategy.
Absolutely. It was strategy underpinned by this quiet, deep pride. There's that line, Mama was the only Negro woman in Stamps referred to once as Mrs. in that time and place. That single word, Mrs., speaks volumes about the respect, the distance she commanded, even from those who held all the official power.
So let's talk about the children in this world. Marguerite. Her self-image is just brutal.
It's devastating. Internalized racism, basically. She calls herself a too big Negro girl with nappy black hair, broad feet, and a space between her teeth.
And she fantasized about being white, blonde hair, blue eyes, believing some cruel fairy stepmother did this to her.
Yeah. It shows how pervasive those white beauty standards were. It wasn't just teenage insecurity. It was this active form of oppression telling her she was fundamentally flawed. Just heartbreaking. And Bailey Jr., her brother, a year older, he's her rock, isn't he?
Her guide, yeah. Quick-witted, her companion, often her only real mirror in that world.
And then there's Uncle Willie, Mama's son, crippled since he was 3.
Dropped by a babysitter, the book says. And the description is so vivid, sitting like a giant black Z, his face pulled down.
His position in the community sounds painful too. The whipping boy, the butt of jokes sometimes. You really feel the psychological weight of it all, beyond the physical disability. Chapter 2 gives this incredible moment.
Ah, when the school teachers visited from Little Rock.
Yes. Marguerite senses something's off immediately. A wrongness.
And it's Uncle Willie, standing, pretending for a moment.
Standing erect behind the counter, leaning back, hiding his cane behind the coal oil tank. Just for that moment, trying to be a whole Mr. Johnson. Marguerite, even though she didn't feel much for her actual father, she feels this sudden, deep connection to Uncle Willie then. She gets it. He was just worn out, she says, from the constant effort of hiding, of fighting that judgment, wanting, just once, not to have the high-topped shoes, the visible signs.
That effort. It shows how intense the pressure was, even within the black community, let alone from outside. Which brings us right to that raw racism, like the po-white trash encounter.
Oh, that incident. It's such a stark collision of class and race dynamics. You have the black community's code, very formal politeness. Kids are quiet, respectful. Adults are always Mr. or Mrs., never look them directly in the eye.
And these po-white trash kids, living on Mama's land, they just shatter all of that, crawling on shelves, calling Uncle Willie by his first name.
And calling Mama Annie to her face. That was the ultimate disrespect.
Marguerite feels it intensely, calls it the birth of her paranoia. The girl's mocking Mama, imitating her posture. No, Helen, you ain't standing like her. And Marguerite's just burning inside, wanting to scream insults back.
Dirty, scummy Peckerwoods, yeah. And her anger gets worse because she thinks Mama's just taking it, submitting. Mama stands there, tree trunk still, humming a hymn, just refusing to engage.
But she wasn't submitting. She was fighting differently.
Exactly, a moral battle. It peaks when one girl does a handstand showing she has no underwear on, a deliberate, shocking act of public indecency trying to break Mama's composure with vulgarity.
But Mama doesn't break.
Doesn't give them the satisfaction, denies them the reaction they crave. So they eventually get tired, leave, calling out, "Bye, Annie."
And that's when Mama makes her move.
Her masterful stroke. She replies with perfect dignity, "Bye, Ms. Helen. Bye, Ms. Ruth. Bye, Ms. Eloise." Affixing that formal Ms. to these rude children. It flips the script, asserts her own moral high ground, forces them into this bizarre acceptance of her authority.
Marguerite doesn't get it at first, right? She's crying with frustration.
Yeah, she can't understand why Mama would give them that respect, but then she sees Mama's face calm, satisfied, like a brown moon, and she realizes later, Mama won, and she was beautiful in that moment. It's a lesson in that quiet strategic power, control, foresight.
That's such a powerful story. And it sets the stage for understanding bigger community moments, too, like the Joe Louis fight in Chapter 19, that collective energy.
Oh, absolutely. The scene at the store during that fight, it's electric, packed with people, glued to their master's voice, the radio. The air is thick with anxiety, hope and fear all mixed together. Praying Louis gets back up after taking a hit that looked like it was low.
And when he wins, the announcement comes.
The winner and still heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Louis. The release is just enormous. It's not just about boxing.
No, it's symbolic.
Totally. A black boy, some black mother's son. He was the strongest man in the world. It felt like a victory against everything stacked against them. They celebrate drinking Coca-Colas like ambrosia, eating candy bars.
Like Christmas, yeah.
But even in that joy, there's that shadow. The immediate need for safety. Knowing they couldn't be caught out alone on the roads that night. Because that pride, their celebration, could easily trigger violence.
That duality again. Joy, then immediate vulnerability. And that threat, it was always there, reinforced by white authority, even when it pretended to be kind.
Like the sheriff incident, the used to be sheriff, she calls him, which kind of cuts him down a bit. He rides up on his horse, all casual authority.
Right. Raciously astraddle his horse, and he gives Mama this warning.
A terrifying warning. "Annie, tell Willie he better lay low tonight. A crazy nigger messed with a white lady today. Some of the boys will be coming over here later."
Chilling, And the assumption behind it.
Is that Willie and all black men are inherently guilty, or at least vulnerable, that they'll automatically scurry under their houses to hide in chicken droppings. It's safety offered through humiliation, patronizing and deeply oppressive.
Mama's strength in dealing with that formal white power comes through again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In the dentist story, chapter 24, Marguerite's toothache.
Yeah, a terrible toothache. And Mama insists they go see Dr. Lincoln, the white dentist. Marguerite is shocked she'd never heard of a black person going to him.
And his reaction is immediate. Racist policy, straight up.
Blatant. Annie, you know I don't treat colored people. My policy is I don't treat colored people.
Marguerite has this whole fantasy version where Mama chews him out, tells him to go treat dogs with mange.
Yeah. But the reality is so much more Mama. More strategic.
Right. She brings up an old debt he owed her from the Depression.
Which he claims he paid. But instead of arguing that, which is pointless, she pivots. She demands $10 interest on that old debt.
And she gets it. Enough money to take Marguerite to the black dentist in Texarkana, 25 miles away.
Exactly. No yelling, no confrontation. She can't win. She just extracts payment for his bigotry, leverages the past, and gets what she needs for their survival. That quiet strategic genius. That's Mama.
It really is. Taking what's needed, not getting drawn into unwinnable fights. But then that whole world gets turned upside down when the kids are sent to St. Louis, pulled out of stamps.
Such a jarring transition. And that theme of abandonment really comes to the surface. Remember those Christmas gifts earlier? Big Bailey's photo, Vivian's doll and tea set. They just made the kids ask, why did they send us away?
So meeting their father, Big Daly, when he comes to stamps, it shatters Marguerite's fantasies.
Completely. He's handsome, drives a DeSoto, sure. But she notices the dailers and errors in his speech right away. Disappointment. She'd imagined him living in a castle or something.
Only to find out later he was a doorman.
Yeah. And that car ride to St. Louis in Chapter 9 sounds awful. Bailey Jr. immediately starts trying to charm their father, buttering him up. Marguerite's just terrified, especially when she learns they're going to meet Mother Dear.
And meeting Vivian Baxter, their mother, it leaves Marguerite speechless.
Struck dumb, yeah,
Hey.
by her beauty. Angelou uses these incredible images, a hurricane in its perfect power, a rainbow, this force of nature. Vivian's red lips, a sin in Mama's book, her fresh butter color, just mesmerizing. And Bailey Jr., he falls head over heels instantly.
St. Louis itself is such a different world.
Totally different. New foods, thin sliced ham, jelly beans mixed with peanuts, which sounds kind of good, actually.
Huh? Maybe. And the school, Toussaint Louverture Grammar School. Much bigger, more formal.
And interestingly, even coming from that segregated, under-resourced school in Stamps, both kids get moved up a grade. They were too advanced. Shows Mama built a strong foundation, despite everything.
We also meet the Baxter family, Vivian's side, known for being loyal, maybe a bit dangerous.
Definitely fierce, protective, like mother's brothers beating up Pat Patterson for cursing at her. You don't mess with the Baxters.
And Grandfather Baxter gives Marguerite some important advice, too, doesn't he? About her looks.
Yes, crucial advice in that environment. He tells her, basically, don't sweat not being conventionally pretty. Riddy, don't worry, because you ain't pretty, you smart. I swear to God, I'd rather you have a good mind than a cute behind. Prioritizing brains over beauty, that was exactly what she needed to hear, given her self-image issues.
But this new world brings a new kind of danger. Mr. Freeman, mother's boyfriend.
Ugh, Mr. Freeman. Marguerite notes early on she feels sorry for him somehow. Compares him to pigs being fattened for slaughter. It's chilling foreshadowing for Chapter 11.
The assault. It's the defining trauma of her childhood.
Absolutely horrific. And after he initiates contact, then rapes her, the threat he uses to silence her is just diabolical.
Yeah.
If you ever tell anybody what we did, I'll have to kill Bailey.
So the burden shifts entirely to her. Protect Bailey.
Right, and she feels this immediate, crushing guilt, convinced that because she didn't stop him, somehow she helped him to do it.
That guilt, that fear for Bailey, it dictates everything in the courtroom scenes in chapters 12 and 13.
She's struck dumb by the lawyer's questions. They're aggressive, accusatory almost. And when asked directly if Freeman had touched her before the rape, she lies, says no.
Because telling the truth would shame the family. And maybe put Bailey at risk.
That seems to be the terrible calculation she makes. But achieving safety through lies makes the outcome feel tainted, less appealing, she says. And then the aftermath. Freeman is found dead shortly after he's released. Kicked to death, possibly.
And Marguerite blames herself, believes her voice, her lie, killed him.
Yes. That's when the silence starts. She decides, I had to stop talking. And her family just accepts it, sees it as this post-rape, post-hospital affliction, not understanding the deep conviction behind it.
So after all that trauma, she goes back to Stamps. Seeking refuge, maybe?
A retreat, definitely. Back to the familiar, even the parts she used to hate. She finds a cocoon there, she calls it. Loneliness, resignation, welcoming the quiet after the noise and violence of St. Louis. But people there don't really get it.
They think she's just missing the city, being tender-hearted.
Yeah, they misinterpret the silence.
Yeah.
But then comes the lifeline. Mrs. Bertha Flowers, chapter 15.
The aristocrat of black stamps.
That's her, a woman of grace and control. Marguerite sees her as the measure of what a human being could be.
It's a complicated relationship at first, though, isn't it? Marguerite feels ashamed of Mama around her.
Initially, yeah. She hates Mama calling her sister Flowers, hates Mama's grammar, Mama left out the verb. It takes her years to see past the surface, to realize Mama and Mrs. Flowers shared this fundamental likeness, just separated by formal education, by manners.
But the key moment is when Mrs. Flowers invites her over. Cookies, lemonade, and reading aloud.
That's the turning point, that visit. Mrs. Flowers gives her these lessons in living. Reading to her, reintroducing language as something safe, something powerful.
And she explicitly talks about language, right?
Oh, yeah. Gives her that core lesson. Language is man's way of communicating with his fellow man, and it is language alone which separates him from the lower animals. And crucially, that words aren't just marks on paper. It takes the human voice to infuse them with the shades of deeper meaning. It validates Marguerite's mind, offers a path back.
It's an act of profound attention, really, seeing her.
Exactly. Marguerite realizes she's liked for just being Marguerite Johnson, not for her family, not for performing, just for being. It's the lifeline that pulls her out of that silence. Huge.
That renewal really sets her on the path towards finding her own identity, independence. Though there are still major bumps, like the 8th grade graduation in chapter 23.
Oh, the graduation, that should have been pure joy, right? This glorious release, collective pride.
But the speaker, Mr. Donlevy, the white politician,
Yeah.
his speech just crushes it.
Crushes it. It's this masterclass in subtle oppression. He basically tells these bright black graduates their only possible heroes are athletes. Jesse Owens, Joe Louis. Forget being scientists or lawyers. It's just deadening, patronizing. You feel the whole room deflate.
But then there's a recovery. Henry Reed, the valedictorian.
Henry Reed saves the moment. He turns his back on the officials, faces the community, and starts leading them in the Negro National Anthem, James Weldon Johnson's Lift Every Voice and Sing.
And Marguerite hears the words truly for the first time.
Yeah. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. It becomes this powerful act of reclamation, a reminder that their survival, their spirit, is tied to their poets, their preachers, their musicians, those cultural anchors.
So after that, she moves back to California to live with her mother again. And in chapter 29, she meets Daddy Cledell, Vivian's new husband.
Daddy Cledell. He seems like the first truly stable, positive male figure in her life. A really interesting guy.
Successful businessman, but not formally educated.
Right. Only 3 years of school, but clearly sharp, a man of honor. And he teaches Marguerite things like poker, blackjack, card games.
Which gives her a different perspective, doesn't it, on success?
Yeah, she sees these self-made black men using their wits, their intelligence to thrive in the rackets in these sort of gray areas because the mainstream paths were blocked. She respects their skill, doesn't see them as just criminals, and this period also teaches her about code switching.
Moving between school language and street language.
Exactly. That's not unusual versus it bees like that sometimes. Learning that linguistic flexibility, vital skill.
Then chapter 30 throws her back with her biological father, Big Bailey, for that trip to Mexico. And things get messy.
Very messy. He gets completely drunk at a cantina, passes out cold, leaving Marguerite, who has never driven before, stranded with the car.
But she handles it, drives the Hudson down a mountain road.
50 miles, down a treacherous road to the border. It becomes this moment of pure, exhilarating triumph for her, conquering the car, the situation, her own fear, insecurity, and even gravity, she says. A real turning point in her sense of capability.
And she uses that newfound confidence almost immediately back in San Francisco, right? Deciding to get a job.
Yeah. Bailey Jr. has left home after a fight with Vivian, and Marguerite decides she needs to work. And she sets her sights high, becoming a conductorette on the streetcars, chapter 34.
A job she's flat out told black people can't have.
They don't accept colored people on the streetcars. But instead of giving up, she gets this haughty indignation. She turns it into a game, a duel almost.
Going back to the office again and again, playing this sophisticated game with the receptionist.
Exactly. Persisting, wearing them down through sheer polite stubbornness, exploiting the receptionist's discomfort. And she gets the forms. She gets the job, becomes one of the first Black conductorettes. It's a huge victory against institutional racism and a massive step in defining herself independently.
But even with that success, she hits this internal crisis in Chapter 35. Body image issues again.
Yeah, big time. Worried about her breasts, her deep voice, her feet. And then she reads The Well of Loneliness and gets terrified she might be a lesbian, which she confuses with being a hermaphrodite.
So she asks her mother, Vivian.
And Vivian's reaction is just perfectly Vivian. Calm, practical, non-judgmental, looks up vulva in the dictionary for her. And when Marguerite confesses her fear about being lesbian, Vivian just cuts through it.
What does she say?
Something like, look, I made arrangements a long time ago to have a boy and a girl. Bailey's my boy and you are my girl. The man upstairs, he don't make mistakes. Simple, direct, affirming.
But that reassurance isn't quite enough for Marguerite. She still feels this need for external validation.
Apparently so. Because in chapter 36, she's 16, and she seeks out this brief, pretty much unromantic sexual encounter. Why? Because she felt she needed a boyfriend to clarify my position, mostly to herself. The encounter itself was empty, unredeemed by shared tenderness.
But it leads to pregnancy.
Yes. And she hides it for months. Doesn't say anything until 2 days after she gets her high school diploma, right after V-Day. She leaves a note.
On Daddy Clittle's bed. What did it say?
Something like, Dear parents, I'm sorry to bring this disgrace on the family, but I am pregnant, Marguerite. Bracing for the worst, I imagine.
But Vivian's reaction, it's not condemnation at all.
Not one bit. Classic Vivian. Asks if Marguerite wants to marry the father. Marguerite says no. Vivian says, well, that's that. No use ruining 3 lives. Handles it with total pragmatism. No shame, no blame, just dealing with it. Perfectly matches her mantra, right?
Hoping for the best, prepared for the worst, and unsurprised by anything in between.
That's the one. So the book ends, really, with the birth of her son. And this realization hits Marguerite. The baby is totally mine. No one had bought him for me. It's this ultimate moment of possession, of selfhood.
But it's not purely triumphant, is it? There's fear there, too.
Yeah, that's the fascinating part. She's sitting there looking at him in his bassinet, and she's almost paralyzed, afraid to touch him, overwhelmed by his mysterious perfection, terrified of her own awkwardness.
So that whole journey from feeling black, ugly in stamps, silenced by trauma, to driving that car down the mountain, fighting for that job, and now holding her own child, it culminates in this moment of profound, almost terrifying awareness.
Exactly. The transformation is immense, but the ending isn't a simple happily ever after. It's complex, and it loops back in a way to that idea from the graduation, the power of poets, of culture. Well, Angelou makes the point that Black survival itself is tied to the dedication of our poets, preachers, musicians, blues singers included. People like Dunbar, Hughes, James Weldon Johnson. They provide the language, the spirit, the framework to endure those auctioned pains, as she puts it. That cultural resilience is what gets them through.
So we leave Marguerite in this very vulnerable, very real moment. After all the fighting, all the struggle, all the intense feeling, she's almost stopped in her tracks by the quiet reality of her baby.
It makes you think, doesn't it, this final paralysis? What does it suggest? Maybe that the journey of self-possession, of love, is the next great challenge. She defined herself by pushing against the world. But motherhood, maybe it requires learning how to simply hold something precious, something innocent.
It raises that question. After you've built yourself through defiance, what happens when you face a love that's unconditional, maybe even terrifying in its purity? A love that needs a whole new kind of strength, maybe a whole new language.
Perhaps. The struggle isn't over, it's just entered a new phase. A new chapter of learning has just begun for Maya Angelou.